Good evening and welcome to the Coeur d'Alene City Council meeting for June 6, 2023. Call this meeting to order, and the clerk will note that all council are present. The invocation tonight will be led by Kyle Marine from our water division. I'm just checking to see if you're listening. We have no one scheduled to lead that invocation.
That was fun.
But we will do a Pledge of Allegiance. If you would please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Does the council have any amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to a couple presentations. The first one is a proclamation. Whereas the city of Coeur d'Alene has enacted legislation prohibiting discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation, gender identity, expression, and whereas discriminatory housing, employment, and public accommodation practices are detrimental because they impede the social and economic progress of a city by preventing all of the city's citizens from contributing to the cultural, spiritual, social, and commercial life of the community, and whereas the contributions of all citizens to the city of Coeur d'Alene are essential to the city's growth, vitality, and prosperity, and whereas the denial of fair and equal treatment under the law due to sexual orientation or gender identity expression is detrimental to the health, safety, and welfare of city citizens and damages a city's economic well-being, and whereas all persons, regardless of sexual orientation and gender identity expression, shall enjoy the full benefits of citizenship in the city of Coeur d'Alene and are afforded equal opportunities for employment, housing, commercial property, and the use of public accommodations and hospitality, and whereas the North Idaho Pride Alliance envisions a safe and inclusive community where lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer or questioning, intersex, and asexual people belong, can connect, and are empowered to thrive in North Idaho. Now, therefore, I, James Hammond, Mayor of the City of Coeur d'Alene, do hereby proclaim the month of June 2023 as LGBTQIA plus Pride Month. In witness hereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the Great Seal of the City of Coeur d'Alene to be affixed the third day of June. Well, actually, it's now the sixth day of June, 2023. I was actually supposed to read this last weekend, and thank you, Amy, for doing that for me, but I was down playing with grandchildren in Colorado. So, Sarah Lynch. Thank you. Grab the wrong one. I want to present this to you.
Sir, can I invite some of our volunteers and board members to be part of the picture as well? Come on up if anybody wants to be in.
It is with great pride that I present this to your group.
Thank you, sir.
And I apologize for missing the event. Grandkids always strong.
Can I make a few comments?
You bet.
Okay. So, well, good evening, everybody. My name is Dr. Sarah Lynch. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the brand new and first ever executive director for the North Idaho Pride Alliance. Our little nonprofit seeks to create a North Idaho where LGBTQIA plus people belong, can connect, and are empowered to thrive. And we accomplish this through a threefold approach of educating, advocating, and networking. I've been asked repeatedly since taking this position just a little over a month ago, why is Pride important, especially this year? So here's a few statistics. Just today, the nation's largest LGBTQ+ civil rights group, the Human Rights Campaign, declared a national state of emergency for LGBTQ+ folks. And this is why. Both the November 2022 and the recently issued May of 2023 National Terrorism Advisory System Bulletin disseminated by the Department of Homeland Security highlight the LGBTQ+ community as likely targets of potential violence. Additionally, as identified by our own Coeur d'Alene Press, the Trevor Project estimates that the more than 1.8 million LGBTQ+ youth and the more than half of transgender and non-binary youth who have seriously considered suicide each year do so not because of their orientation and their gender identity, but because of the societal stigma they face, as my first 2 points exemplify. To put it bluntly, this is a life and death issue for LGBTQ+ folks, and as I've stated repeatedly over the past few weeks, pride saves lives. Additionally, over the last year or so, I've been humbled as I observe North Idaho unite to reject hate. This city ordinance prohibiting discrimination in housing, employment, and public accommodations due to sexual orientation and gender identity and/or expression, enacted nearly 10 years ago and upon which this proclamation is based, was well ahead of its time and shows incredible forethought by its founders. That being said, as an Air Force veteran who served the majority of my career under Don't Ask, Don't Tell, I'm also disheartened at having come full circle, revisiting many of the issues I'd seen resolved over the course of my lifetime. Since becoming a member of this beautiful region, I've learned of the extraordinary challenges previously overcome by this community, and am truly honored to contribute to rising above the current obstacles we face today. On behalf of the North Idaho Pride Alliance, I'm honored to extend to you all our deepest gratitude, and I especially want to thank the city leadership and public safety officials who guaranteed a successful and peaceful Pride in the Park last Saturday. I look forward with hope to the future that we can build together. So thank you, Mayor Hammond, and thank you, City Council.
Thank you. We move on then to the annual audit report. Don't leave, this is really exciting.
It will be riveting, I promise.
Riveting.
I'm sorry, Tom.
That's okay. We're used to it. So. Good
Welcome.
evening, Honorable Mayor and members of council. My name is Tony Hackwith. I'm with Anderson Brothers CPAs in Post Falls, and we performed the financial statement audit for the city for the year September 30th, 2022 financial statements. I wanted to give a special thanks to Vonnie and her team with their efforts in assisting us. This is a lengthy process, and they answer questions and provide us with a lot of information and still do their day-to-day duties. Tonight I have a slide presentation for you, and it's kind of brief. I think it's brief. I'll go fast. I'm going to go over your audit reports that we issued as a result of our audit, and then I have a few slides of your current year financial statements and then some historical. And stop me whenever you want, and I'll try to answer your question. If not, I'll get back to you. And we'll see. I heard that Troy can help me with this IT stuff if I have problems. Okay. Here we go. Okay, first off, the reason that you actually have a financial statement audit is the state requires it in state statutes. And the reason that they require it is so that they can know that your financial statements are materially stated, and that they're stated in accordance with GAAP, which is generally accepted accounting principles. As a result of our audit procedures, this year we issued 2 reports. One is our independent auditor's report over your financial statements as a whole, on whether they're materially stated. And our report, or our opinion, was an unmodified opinion, which is also referred to as a clean opinion, meaning that we were able to perform procedures and feel that your financial statements are materially correct. Then we issue a report on internal control over financial reporting and compliance with laws and regulations. And again, this report is an unmodified opinion, meaning that we did not find significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in the city's internal controls over financial reporting or noncompliance with financial reporting compliance areas. I pulled these two paragraphs out of our audit report, our independent auditor's report, and mainly because sometimes there's a misconception of what management's responsibilities are for your financial statements and the auditor's responsibilities. It's management's responsibility to design and implement internal controls to assure that your financial statements are materially stated, I keep wanting to say misstated, that there isn't a material misstatement of the financial statements, whether due to fraud or error. And the auditor's responsibility is to perform tests over your internal controls as such and issue an opinion on whether or not, again, your financial statements are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error. Okay, this graph shows your general fund, which is your main operating fund for the city. It shows your revenues and expenditures over the last 5 years. Your revenues over expenditures in the current year was $750,000. Your revenues increased from the prior year by $3.9 million, and the highest increase was due to property tax revenue. Your expenses increased by $1.7 million, and the highest increase here was in the public safety expenses, which was $1.6 million. This slide shows your general fund balance. So the fund balance is a result of your revenues over expenditures. Your fund balance is divvied up into 4 different areas. There's unassigned fund balance, which is for discretionary spending. There's assigned and committed fund balance, which council has assigned for specific areas and committed for specific areas. And then there's your restricted fund balance, which is outside restrictions, state or federal grants and such that you receive that you have to spend money for certain purposes. Your unassigned fund balance was $11.9 million at September 30th, 2022, while the prior year was $12.4. So those were the amounts that are discretionary, available for discretionary funding. The fund balance is important because your revenue streams are not month to month, day to day. You receive 2 big chunks in July and January for property taxes, and you receive your state revenues in quarterly increments. So you need the fund balance so that you can pay your day-to-day expenditures. It's also can provide money in case of catastrophic events, in case of decrease in your federal or state funding. It can protect you from having to borrow money, and if you borrow money or have to borrow money, you can have a better credit rating, which can qualify you for a lower interest rate. The Government Finance Officers Association has a couple benchmarks that they publish on where you should be with your unassigned fund balance, and their recommendation is no less than 60 days of your operating revenues or your operating expenses. This graph shows you how many days you have in your unassigned fund balance at year end in operating revenues. So you can see that you are above the benchmark of the 60 days. This graph is very similar, but it is in relation to your operating expenses. And again, you are above that 60-day minimum.
Tony, do you have a percentage that you've assigned to that?
That I'd assign to
The fund balance? I think the recommendation you gave us last year was it should at least be 16%.
well, they've actually changed their recommendation and are focusing on operating revenues and operating expenses. So I'm trying to remember what their 5 to 15%, and it varies due to the size of the entity. There's fire districts, water districts, cities, counties, so it really varies according to your operating entity. But I think that the prior benchmark that they issued as a percentage was minimum of 5 to 15% of your operating expenditures.
Thank you.
But I can get back to you on that.
Oh, that's all right.
Benchmark too.
You've given us this. Thank you.
So the major proprietary funds, your water and wastewater funds, these funds should provide for revenues over expenses with your charges for services, and then also have additional money so that you can put money aside for infrastructure improvements and repairs and maintenance on that. So your water fund operating revenues decreased this last year, 2022, by $618,000. And the majority of that was due to, we had a hotter summer in 2021 than we did 2022. And so the usage varies, and that will make a significant impact on your revenues. Your operating expenses increased by $381,000 from the prior year. And I just want to note that for your Percy pension expenses, there is an actuarial study performed each year, and they come up with, based on a lot of different factors, what your expense is for that year. It's not an outlay of your expenditures, but it's an estimated expense of your pension expense. So this last year, it was higher than the prior year, that specific expense item, by $439,000. So that definitely made an impact on the increase in your expenses in the water fund. So the water fund had a net loss from operations of about $165,000 this last year. If you pulled that out, you would have actually had income of about $275,000. The wastewater fund had an increase in revenue of $820,000, and the expenses increased by about $842,000, so kind of a wash. But the wastewater portion of the pension expense was $599,000, so if you pull that out, your expenses would be that much less. So your operating net income in the current year was $3.6 million, and it was very similar. The last year was about $3.6 million as well. This graph shows you the water fund over the last 5 years, your operating revenues in the green and your expenses. And this next slide.
Could I just ask you a question? You need to straighten my head out here.
Oh, you were nodded, that didn't work.
Oh, I'm sorry. So with all those numbers you just threw out there,
I don't
it
know.
sounds like,
Okay, I'm sorry. I was
okay.
trying to get my graph.
So the water department sounds like they lost money. They spent more and brought in less. Is that where fund balance comes in? So it's not really losing money? Cash flow's good, they can still pay their bills? Am I understanding that?
Well, again, $439,000 of that is not an actual cash outlay. It's an estimated expense, the pension expense. So if you pull that out, you would have actually had operating income of $275,000 in the water fund.
Okay, thanks, sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
My brain was going, what? Thank you.
And this is your wastewater fund, the operating revenues and expenses over the last 5 years. And that is the end of my presentation. If you have questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Dan?
Mr. Mayor, Terry, going back to the water fund and what you just told Woody, can you explain to me the pension expenses?
Yes.
Over that, please.
So, in 2019, so Percy, you pay into Percy for your employees each month, and it's an actual cash outlay. You send Percy some money. In 2019, there were a lot of retirement plans, governmental entities, and mostly in the Midwest, that were not funding the pensions, and when people came to retire, they didn't have funds there. So they made them start having an actuarial study of the demographics of number of participants, male or female, the rates and such. The Percy itself has to have an audit each year over their retirement fund, and has to have an actuary come in and estimate what the potential liability is, as well as the expense. The change in the liability that they estimate each year will change your expense that's recognized on your financial statement. So The $439,000 of expense is from an actuary saying that this, the change in the net pension liability from this year from 21 to 22 is resulted in an increase in expense. It increased your liability based on their study. So it's an estimate. Your liability, your pension liability for Percy, and that estimate, say it's $500,000 that they estimate is the liability. They're saying if you close your doors on 9/30/22, that you may have $500,000 that has not been funded, that Percy doesn't have sitting in their coffers, that you're going to have to come up with.
So it wasn't really an expense? It wasn't money going out the door?
The change in that net pension liability, no. It's to recognize that on your financial statement, we increase the liability, that the offset of that is an increase on your expenses, yes.
Okay, but it wasn't money going out the door? That's what
Not-
you told Woody. You said that if we would have taken that away, then the water department would have had more revenue than expenses.
Yes,
So it's an accounting thing?
yes.
Okay,
Yes.
cool.
It's an accounting estimate.
It's voodoo. Thank you.
It's yeah. Yeah.
like that.
Tony?
Yes.
I didn't see it anywhere in here yet, and I'm not sure that you made a statement. Did you say we had a clean audit?
Yes, yes, you did.
The first few pages.
Thank you. I just got this.
Which means, as a result of our procedures, we feel your financial statements are materially stated. So,
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, thank you, Tony. Moving on to announcements. Announcements from the council. Dan?
Well, I would just say for the record, in 2 weeks is our Association of Cities meeting, and I'm going to be driving down, so I will be driving on Tuesday, miss the meeting. Hopefully it'll be an excused absence. There's some great workshops I've got signed up. So
I'll be waiting to see your note.
I'll do a book report, okay?
Anything else? Very well. I would ask council confirmation for the appointment of James Chapkus and Elaine Price to the Parking Commission and Summer Ward to the Arts Commission.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to confirm those appointments. All those in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
Opposed with nay. Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to approve the consent calendar as presented, including Resolution 23037.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, will the clerk take the roll, please?
McEvers,
Yes.
Gookin,
Yeah.
English,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Evans. Evans,
Motion carries.
Yes.
Aye.
Carried without.
We're still relevant.
Still carries. Okay, public comment. Tony, I assume that your public comment is what your presentation, right? Okay, next is Michael Kep.
Good evening, council members, Mr. Mayor. I am just here for three things. I won't take a lot of your time. I just wanted to introduce myself. I have taken over the summer concert series from the late music man, Mr. Christopher Gugamos. And through a series of incredible events of being called from Marshall Men to Doug Eastwood to Bill Greenwood, being mentored since November. By trade, I'm an author and a musician. And in November, I got a call from Marshall, and I picked up the phone, and he just said, "This is what you're going to be doing." And I've learned that with Marshall, if any of you know him, that I do what Marshall tells me to do. I was given a blue notebook that was filled with the most charming, spidery, handwritten receipts and notes, and something that I think you would have really liked to have seen in terms of a business model.
You need to face this way.
I had to weave through this, and by March, I decided that this was something I was going to pursue to try to bring these concerts to the community and keep them going, and hopefully as well as Chris had done in the past. So other than thank you for the incredible work that you guys are doing, if you have any questions for me, I'd be delighted to answer.
Thank you for doing that. It's great. It's a
gonna be
great
lot of fun.
asset to
We're
the
all set up,
community. And
the shows are booked, and we're moving forward.
Excellent.
Thank you
Great.
for picking up that mantle. I
You bet,
appreciate
You
it.
bet. Thanks.
Danny Zabel-Wolf?
Mayor Hammond, council members, guess what time of the year it is? Okay. My name is Danny Zabel-Wolf, and I am the volunteer director for Ironman Coeur d'Alene. And first and foremost, I would like to thank you and the city of Coeur d'Alene for the past 20 years we have been here. You have welcomed us to Coeur d'Alene and North Idaho year after year. This year, Coeur d'Alene was voted the third best race venue in the world, and that is by the athletes. A great testament to the warm welcome rolled out by Coeur d'Alene. Mark your calendars, Sunday, June 25th. Ironman, the full distance race, is back. Our athletes will go 140.6 miles. One of the best things that the Ironman staff hear about Coeur d'Alene is the fabulous volunteer that roll out the red carpet, and they literally finish on red carpet at the finish line. The hum of energy in the air is amazing and makes for an enthusiastic and lively day. Now this year we are recruiting 3,000 to 3,500 volunteers. You ask why so many volunteers? No doubt it provides a great experience for the athlete, but more importantly, it's a safety thing. Think about keeping those athletes safe for 140 miles throughout the day in the water, the bike, the run, hydration, and food. But most importantly, the enthusiasm that our volunteers bring forth is just incredible. Ironman's nonprofit foundation recognizes the dedicated volunteers around the world. And once again, the Ironman Foundation is giving back $25,000 to this community in the form of grants to nonprofits and organizations who give of their time. We are actively recruiting volunteers. That would be me, and I hope a lot of other people. We're looking for individuals, families, friend groups, nonprofits, and employers, those who see the value of giving back to the community through the healthy sport of triathlon. We invite you to join us to be inspired. To find us, I encourage you to search for Ironman Coeur d'Alene. The URL is about this long. So if you'll search for Ironman Coeur d'Alene, find the race website, and volunteering is about halfway down the page. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Yes.
Just one comment, Danny. I was just going to thank you. I've watched what you've done for this organization and for this town in the volunteer realm over the years. I've housed athletes. I've been a volunteer. I've seen the work that you put into it, and it couldn't happen without leadership like yours. So I just wanted to tell you thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you,
great
Danny.
day. Thank you.
G. Roger Wilson? Do you think that's Wilson?
You're the teacher, I can't.
Well, it looks like Wilson to me.
guess so.
Roger, I'm sure. Okay. Justin O'Connell?
Read that one.
What a surprise.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Agent J, Central Planning. It's actually my 1-year anniversary of being assigned here, so I'd like to congratulate me. Congratulations, me. Thank you. All right. It's Pride Month, so we're celebrating our tolerance. Unless you think differently than us, then you're a homophobic, fascist bigot. And we will crush you, Kellogg. We're also buying an object. We place objects around town for the elite to not buy, so we never get the 25% we would get if they did purchase them. And when no one purchases them, we stick the taxpayer with the bill. Taxpayer, shut your mouth. You're getting a deal. The object was 5K. Now it's only 1K. It's the squiggly thingy. It's called Timeline Theory Reflections. Whoa. It's no wonder it comes from the Pacific Northwest. And we also get to disperse the American Rescue Plan Act money, ARPA. You might wonder, what are we saving the country from with ARPA? Government intervention. And what else to fix government intervention than more government intervention? Your plan for the ARPA money, government intervention, gets central planning seal of approval. Create a home sharing program. The townspeople can never do that. They can't do anything. Just as long as you don't incentivize the free market to build. But we do have a problem. You have to give central planning our money back. This was a rescue package, but this town didn't do enough of the stuff we would need rescuing from. This town sucks at lockdown. We even made a big show out of it. All the pharma reps, doctors, came here to plead with you. We almost got medical passports. The police said they'd do whatever you wanted. Yet I walked down Main Street and it's as if not a single small business went under. Unacceptable. Also, if you actually cared about affordable housing, you would have pushed the jab more. All we got was a sign when the subjects entered town. Nothing warms my heart more than when I'm greeted with, wear a mask, instead of welcome to our town. You were close, council, but you know something? No ARPA money for you. If you don't give central planning back our money, you should know that I've actually recently started my own nonprofit. Yes, it's true. Central nonprofit. I've drafted a plan to revive Hobo Village down by the river to alleviate the housing issues. Instead of giving the money to the Breakfast Club, which takes all that taxpayer money, you can give it to me. What do you think? Mine is actually the first minority-run nonprofit in the city, so you pretty much have to give me the money. Now, it's really important. This is really important. You don't check my books, right? Thank you.
Linda Coppice?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. My name is Linda Coppice, and I'm the President and CEO of the Coeur d'Alene Regional Chamber. Tonight, I'm here to share with you the Chamber's perspective on the proposed MOU that you'll be hearing about from the city, between the City of Coeur d'Alene and the Chamber for our upcoming 2023 4th of July celebration. I just wanted to start with gratitude. I was born and raised here, and I want to say that I'm grateful for all the amazing work that our city, that Ignite CDA, the Downtown Association, and other community partners have done in the past few decades to make improvements to our downtown district. As a result of that work, today Coeur d'Alene has become a vibrant destination. In addition to our unmatched natural beauty, our city now has a plethora of beautiful community gathering spaces, a thriving downtown, and we host multiple events that bring our community members and visitors together. From an economic driver perspective, these events help drive revenue for our local businesses, and that translates to incremental tax dollars for our community. One of the largest events in our region every year is the 4th of July celebration, which, as you know, is managed by our chamber. I'm thankful for the amazing partnership that we have with the city departments. We recognize that the city incurs significant expenses and additional labor for this beloved community event, and we sincerely appreciate working with your staff to find creative solutions. We're excited about the MOU presented here today for a few reasons. First and foremost, it provides great clarity in terms of roles and responsibilities between the two organizations, the city and the Chamber of Commerce. We're also extremely grateful to the city for the help through this MOU in providing parking revenue to help us offset some of our above $64,000 in expenses that we incur this year. On that note, to date, we've raised about $18,000 in sponsorships from business members in our community. So we have a long way to go. And I just wanted to reiterate how important those parking revenues are in helping us to offset some of those costs. So thank you for that. We also appreciate the partnership in working with the streets and PD on our traffic control plan to help ensure public safety for this event, and also the creativity in terms of thinking that has come together to help us with some of the challenges that we have in finding volunteers for this event. It's through those relationships that we've built with the organization that we were able to think about how the chamber can help provide the city with some of our assets, like our building for the police department in the evenings in the summer when things are busy. I know we can do great things together, and above all else, I just wanted to say thank you so much. I believe that spirit and collaboration is reflected in this MOU, and I would encourage you to support it. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Jody Azevedo?
Good evening, Mayor Hammond, council members. I just want to echo, I'm Jody Azevedo. I am the chair of the Coeur d'Alene Regional Chamber this year. And I want to echo Linda's support for the MOU tonight between the city and the Coeur d'Alene Regional Chamber of Commerce. It has always been a long-standing agreement between the city and the Chamber of Commerce, so it's nice to have something official that shows the responsibilities of each party. This is a large event that brings tens of thousands of people to our community that spend money at our local businesses, creates awareness for our great community and our lake, and has also created awareness for our chamber and what they do. I can attest to the chamber's work that they do on this event. They are a small but mighty team that put this giant event together for our community. And so having this MOU that helps draw out those roles and responsibilities for volunteers is really helpful for the chamber team to know what they're about to step into every year. The revenues from parking is huge for the chamber to allow them to recover some of the costs that goes along with putting this event on. And so I am just here to share my support as well with Linda for the support to agree for the MOU and the Coeur d'Alene Regional Chamber.
Thank you.
Thank you.
William Lee?
Hi, City Council. My name is William Lee. I'm from Coeur d'Alene. So I just wanted to talk about the proclamation that you guys made for Coeur d'Alene, for North Idaho Pride Alliance. I really disagree with the city taking its time and making that announcement. I know maybe that's not in vogue right now for me to say something like that. And not even talking about like the moral implications of the things that they endorse and support, like the lifestyles that they endorse and support. I mean, it's just not your guys' business to talk about this. It's also a very divisive issue, this sort of thing. I mean, most people here in Kootenai County, and I would even say Coeur d'Alene, we're the silent majority. Most of us don't, vocalize our opinions. But I would say that it's a very divisive issue, and I really disagree with what you guys did. And my other thing I wanted to ask is, how are proclamations put forth before the city council? I'm curious to know, what the process for that is. I mean, I could think of a very great proclamation that you guys can make. This was actually passed by the legislature, and in the tradition of making proclamations that sort of that affirm what's happening on a national or state level and celebrating that, the pro-life bills that were passed. I feel like a proclamation like that would be very unifying. I think it would be something that people would like. And so, I mean, I'm curious, how is something like that, how is a proclamation submitted to you guys? And, I'd be interested to work on something like that. If you need me to write it, I can help draft it.
You can visit with our city administrator, and he will help you with that process, William.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we have many operational issues to get through tonight. The first one is amendment number 1 to a professional services agreement with Todd Fisher, our Director of Streets and Engineering. Todd?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. I apologize, Chris Bosley, our city engineer, was going to bring this forward, but he is under the weather, so I'm filling in for one of our many drainage projects. So this is for a professional service agreement, amendment number 1 with Keller and Associates. In 2021, the city of Coeur d'Alene was awarded $695,000 from the Idaho Department of Environmental Quality for a Building Idaho Future Grant, now called the Leading Idaho Subaward Program. The goal of the program is to fund projects that will reduce phosphorus loading into Lake Coeur d'Alene. The city was awarded funding for 3 stormwater reduction projects in 3 separate drainage areas. The first one was Mullen, second Sanders Beach and 11th Street, and the 11th Street Marina. The third was Independence Point. Independence Point is the largest of the 3. It's approximately 131 acres. When we first started this project, if you look on the map, it was expensive, and so we were afraid that we were going to have to, from Harrison south, work on this area up here, from there up to Harrison. We did not have enough funding. Some more funds became available. We came to you and asked for that, and you agreed that we should go for the extra funding, and we got that. The initial Keller Associates contract was for $36,900. That was for the conceptual design. So that just got us to that point. Then that's when we came to you and asked for the additional funds. The financial analysis of this, the cost for the amendment is an additional $123,680, which will come out of the DEQ grant. What that additional fund will do will get us designed and get us to a bid package that will now include from Harrison all the way to the south. The initial proposal was for 3 different areas. This is alternative 1. The other areas were very expensive. The other 2 options were just north of $1 million each. So we felt that this one would give us the best effort. Our idea for this is going to be a lot of catch basins up north as we move closer to downtown. The downtown core, we don't have as many areas to treat the water, so we're trying to reduce the amount of water that makes it into the lake up off of Government Way and south of Harrison. With this project, the approximate cost will be $900,000 with the added funds, barring any change orders. Once we combine the money for this, we started out at the $695,000, and we are at, for the combined projects, all 3 will be $1.3 million that we're putting in to reducing phosphorus. Our recommendation to council is that we approve this professional service agreement with the amendment number 1. I would take any questions.
Questions for Todd? Woody?
Todd, so 131 acres of water on the streets that goes somewhere. Right now, that 131 is going directly into the lake. Is that correct?
Through pipe system, yes, it goes straight into the lake.
Okay. And compared to the other places we've done, some of the bigger ones you've done on Northwest Boulevard, the hospital district, is that big, 131 acres, or is this a pretty big one?
This one is slightly bigger, I believe. I don't recall the actual number of acres. The next outfall that we'll be looking at after the big rainstorm we have just to the east of this one, no, in size is considerably bigger. That one is 224 acres, I believe, so it's considerably bigger.
So when this project is done, the 131 acres isn't all going to be going into the lake?
Correct. We're going to install dry wells and other means to keep it up north, treat it in swales, and then that will reduce the amount going into the lake.
Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, there is a proposed resolution.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move for approval of Resolution 23038, approving Amendment 1 to the Professional Services Agreement with Keller Associates for Independence Point Stormwater Improvements.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, will the clerk take the roll, please?
Gookin,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Miller, McEvers.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Terry, you have a couple of issues to bring forth regarding the aquifer.
Well, I probably have a lot of issues to bring forward. Tonight, we'll just focus on a couple of them. Good evening, Mayor and Council, and thank you for allowing us to come before you this evening. We're going to do something a little bit out of the ordinary for the Water Department. As you are all well aware, in 2019, the Governor's Red Tape Act pretty much eliminated most of the IDAPA rules at the time. We had to go back and reissue some of those rules. We had to have some blanket coverage to reenact some of those rules to help protect the water purveyors, the health districts, and just, customers in general. But one of those acts that they did eliminated the rules for some of our partners. As you all know, the Coeur d'Alene customers rely on the Spokane Valley Raster and Prairie Aquifer. This side of the border, we call it Raster and Prairie Aquifer by preference. Anyway, most of the communities in North Idaho and several in eastern Washington also rely on this very valuable resource. It supplies the drinking water of over 500,000 people today and growing very rapidly. We can't take all the credit for doing our best to protect that. We rely on our partners, some of those being our regulators, our very valuable partner being the Panhandle Health District. Unfortunately, with that Red Tape Act, it was in 2019, the Executive Order 2, Panhandle Health District lost the rulemaking authority, and the rules that they had in place were removed or eliminated. So since they have been performing a critical materials management program, they approached us to see if we could bring an ordinance before council authorizing them to be able to carry on with inspections for critical materials. These are potential contaminants over our aquifer through commercial facilities, including the city. We have them come through our facilities as well. Because of the type of aquifer we have, it does not have the top confining layer, it's at risk. So we do our very best to help protect those the aquifer, but we rely on our partners to do what we cannot do. The purpose of this ordinance is to promote protection of the sole source of drinking water for the city and the northern Idaho. It'll restore what the legislative process has removed. It'll establish some authority at the city level and also through an MOU that will follow the ordinance, if you do approve it, for our partners to do the inspections and enforcement portion of it. With that, I would like to bring up our partner, Eric Kettner from Panhandle Health District. I'm going to have him run through his presentation. Let's see. That's the one right there. There. Oh, I had it. Yeah, did it? It's there, right there. Yep. Come on. If it'll work. There it is. All right. Okay, Mr. Eric Kettner.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Eric Kettner. I'm the Division Administrator of Environmental and Health Protection Programs at the Panhandle Health District. what I'm hoping to do tonight is, I think Terry did a great job of summarizing why we're here tonight, but what I'd like to do is provide a little bit of background on how we got here. We didn't take the matter lightly in 2019. We did try to take some significant action to have our rules reauthorized, but I'd like to provide a little bit of background on that, because I think it helps shape why we're here today. So a few items that I'd like to discuss is background. This rule that we're talking about has been in place since 1993, so these protections have essentially been in existence for the last 30 years. The action in 2019 by the legislature not only eliminated our ability to make rule, but it also eliminated the rule set that we had in place. So today I'd like to talk about the issues, what our request is of the city, the importance of it, as well as a few other considerations. As I noted, the Health District was at the forefront of Aquifer rule promulgation, or aquifer protection back in the late 70s. This wasn't unilateral, though, by any stretch of the imagination. There were realtor groups, builder groups, municipalities that were all involved in the promulgation of these rules. I think at the time it was viewed that the Health District was the best entity to carry those rules, because as we encompassed the county and the municipalities, you could have one set of rules that provided these protections across Kootenai County. With the expiration of our being able to do that, what we're currently doing is we're going to the different municipalities and we're going to the county and we're trying to get those rules reauthorized through local rulemaking authority. Some of you may recall that, I believe it was 2 years ago now, the 5-acre rule that we have in place in the county took action, and now they did incorporate that into their code, and so those protections do continue. So after the rules expired, we spent 3 years through using temporary rulemaking processes to keep them in place. However, in the 21 legislative session, it was determined that the Panhandle Health District is not a state agency, and thereby the Idaho Administrative Code process for promulgating rule does not apply. We did utilize temporary rulemaking to keep it alive for 1 more year, and during that time we started discussions primarily with the county, but also with some municipalities on the interest to move these rules into municipal or county code, and thus keep those protections in place. The other feedback that we did get from the legislature was that they viewed this as, they said, why are you here before the legislature? This seems like this is a local issue and should be addressed locally. The challenge for the health district is the only rulemaking process that was in place for us was to go to the state legislature and go to, in front of the House and the Senate committees and get approval that way. So we really don't have any other option other than coming to the individual municipalities and counties. So the request that we have this evening that we found success with the county on is to take the existing rules that have been in place for 30 years, have those formatted to align with municipal codes, and then through MOU have that authority delegated or contracted back to the health district for implementation. I think another key item on that is that this program, inspection program, is 100% funded by the Kootenai County Aquifer Protection District. So this would not cost the city anything. It would not be, we're not requesting any resources in regard to staffing or funding of the programs. It's simply a matter of requesting the use of your rulemaking, local rulemaking authority to allow these protections to continue. And as Terry mentioned, really this is about protecting a water supply is what it is. Not just the city of Coeur d'Alene, but the entire area draws from the Rathdrum Prairie Aquifer for their drinking water. And largely, there's no treatment required. Some chlorine is required for maintenance of the system, but otherwise, it comes right out of the tap clean and ready to drink. And as Terry also mentioned, because it's an unconsolidated aquifer, anything spilled on the ground immediately goes straight down and into our drinking water supply. So the program that we have in place, where we do inspect all of the commercial industrial facilities. And again, our focus is education and technical assistance. We rarely, if ever, have to go to down any enforcement path. Typically, when you go to business operators, if there's a practice in place that is questionable, we can discuss with them exactly what I'm sharing with you today, and they will voluntarily comply. That being said, having a set of rules is helpful when you can point to something and say, you know, and you have to, you know, that can be helpful. And that is really one of the things where Kootenai County is even ahead of Spokane. Their program is voluntary, where ours has been regulatory. The other item that I'd like to note is of the roughly 1,100 facilities that we do inspect, almost 300 of those are in the city limits of Coeur d'Alene. So we're starting with the city of Coeur d'Alene. We have discussions going with Post Falls, Dalton Gardens, as well as other municipalities. But we sort of wanted to start here because, you know, between you and Post Falls, you're over half of the facilities that we're currently monitoring. As I mentioned, the funding, the program is 100% funded by the Aquifer Protection District. All of the staffing of the existing program aspects would be through MOU, would be handled by the Panhandle Health District. This isn't a new requirement on any commercial or industrial facilities. It's the same requirements that have been in place for the past 30 years, so it's not going to be a surprise when our staff show up and continue to do inspections. And to that end, a lot of facilities are already in compliance. This isn't going to be a new or different message to any of them. The other thing I think I'd like to touch on is that we already have had a close and continue to have a close working relationship with the water department, with the wastewater department, because there are, as Terry mentioned, common issues that we run into that helps if we address those in a unified front, and it has resulted in a quicker resolution to a lot of issues that we've had. I did bring a couple of photos of examples of things that we do run into. As I noted, you know, the aquifer is very permeable, so gas stations are kind of a big one in the area. When you have cracks in the concrete, which is essentially a secondary containment, you know, any spilled fuel is going to go directly through those cracks and into the soil and down to the drinking water table. So having these rules and inspections occurring on a regular basis allows us to catch these items and then require correction in fairly short order. So again, this is an example of a fueling station. You know, that we also take a look at stormwater features. If we do see that they've been contaminated or improperly used, again, we'll work with with the city or the municipality to get those items addressed. And these are examples specific to Coeur d'Alene. As you can see under the barrels, you'll see where improper transferring of materials is occurring with the staining that's underneath those barrels. And we have, essentially what the program does is it requires secondary containment of any hazardous materials. So simply, if you spill it, it's being caught in something and not just going directly into the ground. It's pretty straightforward. So, again, recent examples. This is kind of a visual of the facilities that we currently have inventoried and that we inspect on a regular basis. So I'd certainly welcome any questions that you may have in this regard.
Woody?
Well, this is so strange. You know, I guess I would take grassy swales and all the things that we've been doing for 30 years as just part of the deal. What brought about the legislature looking at these rules? Was it on their part legal? It couldn't have been they don't want to take care of the water.
No, it was, as Terry mentioned, it was across the board. All IDAPA rules in the state of Idaho were allowed to expire. All of them are good for a year unless they're reauthorized at the end of the legislative session. Well, the legislature did not reauthorize, did not take that action. Thus, at the end of, as of July 1, all rules would have, the state of Idaho would not have had any administrative rules at all. So every state agency and the health district all entered into temporary rulemaking. And so we spent essentially 3 years trying to get our rules reauthorized. And then ultimately, on year 3, they said, you're not a state agency. And then they essentially kicked us out of the process.
Wow. They're really thinking about us, huh?
I guess the other thing I'd like to note on that question is that, and Mayor Hammond may recall, is that it's not an unpopular rule. We had letters of support from every municipality. We had letters of support from businesses. I think we probably had 15 or 16 letters that we sent down with our legislative packet. And it was acknowledged, but again, it was not enough to get us. One of the challenges that we had is I think that we're a bit of a small fish. And we had trouble just getting hearings with the respective committees in order to move our rule forward.
So this is kind of a way around it. Is that kind of a way to look at it?
I would say it's not a way around it. In part, it's taking the direction that the legislature had, and that is, this is a local issue, please address this locally. But we, as the health district, lack the tools to address it effectively locally, so we're coming to, certainly stakeholders such as the city and requesting your assistance in keeping these protections in place.
Thanks so much.
Dan?
And I think this might be a question for Randy, that applies to this ordinance and probably anything else, and it's probably in that boilerplate language that we read, but if we annex a new portion of the city, then I assume, anything like this where if they weren't under this kind of a rule before, once we annex that part of the city, then they are.
Yes, our ordinances will apply to any property within the city, whether it's now in the city or to be annexed in the future.
Okay.
Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hi, Eric. What are the other health districts doing in the state?
In regards to, there were, if you look back in the 90s, each health district did have its own rule sets for one reason or another. We are very unique. The rule set, our rule set, which was IDAPA 410101, addressed two unique issues to North Idaho, and that was the Rathdrum Prairie Aquifer and the Bunker Hill Superfund site. So not to deviate too far off of this, but we took two divergent paths. We worked with DEQ in regards to the Bunker Hill Superfund site, and that was successfully promulgated into state statute, so it wouldn't be subject to annual expiration. But then in regards to the aquifer protection, we're trying to address it locally with the municipalities.
So what about the other health districts with regards to their other, rules that they had and how they enforce them? Is any other health district in the state partnering with municipalities to create ordinances to enforce what the health district formerly did?
I don't believe so, and I believe that's partially because they don't have the same issues. One of the things that along those lines I'd like to note is that if you look at a map of impacted aquifers, despite the sensitivity of this aquifer, it is one of very few aquifers in the state of Idaho that is not contaminated to some extent. I mean, it's likely due to not just the health district action, but the action of our predecessors back in the 70s to recognize the value of this resource and to keep these protections in place.
Okie doke. Have you approached the county about them establishing an ordinance for enforcement in the county?
Yes.
And what happened?
Basically, we don't have a whole lot of critical material facilities in the county. The last time I saw Commissioner Duncan, though, she did ask when we were coming back to chat with her on this. We did go to the county in regards to the 5-acre rule, 1 septic system per 5 acres, and the county did adopt that. That was about 2 years ago, so they are very supportive.
So you haven't gone to the county on an enforcement issue like we're discussing tonight?
Those were rules as well. Basically, the county is just addressing those from a planning state.
So you haven't. Let's see. So you're not a state agency. What are you?
We, according to statute, we are a special purpose district similar to a school district or a water or sewer district. And where I would like to see it go, ideally, is that if we were like a school district or a water district, that we would have the authority to promulgate bylaws or something where we would retain the authority, but that is not how the statute that creates health districts reads.
So you don't have police powers?
No.
So how do you enforce like a I don't know, what, septic tank, you can still license those? I mean.
We do. Basically, almost with the exception of the rule that I've just addressed today, we have, it's health and welfare or Idaho Department of Environmental Quality rules that is then contracted to the health district for implementation.
Contracted, okay. Some specific items in the ordinance, and I don't know if you're the best one to answer this. So all businesses over the aquifer are subject to inspection in order to determine if they are governed by this chapter. Is that what you used to do?
A lot of this language is almost verbatim, so yes.
Okay. Where, you showed a gas station, and at what point do you take over and the DEQ or the EPA not? I mean, I would think that a gas station would be regulated at a higher level, but it's not?
There are different, I mean, in regards to the tanks and so forth, their DEQ and EPA does have rules in place, but a lot of times in Idaho, rules come into play when something is installed or something is removed. The benefit of us taking a look at these is that on an every 2-year basis, we're going to these sites and we're catching these before they become a problem, not after contamination has already occurred. So we view this as a preventive approach.
Okay. And I don't know if this is a question for you or it could be for Randy, but so someone gets, just like what I said, they get inspected and they find out they're out of compliance. They're supposed to be, they can challenge it, they can appeal it. And the appeal goes to a hearing officer, but the hearing officer in the ordinance isn't named. Who is the hearing officer?
The hearing officer would be appointed by the city, usually by the mayor or the city administrator.
Okay.
We've done that in many other cases.
So it doesn't need to be defined in the ordinance who the hearing officer is?
No, a hearing officer is a position, so it has to be appointed by someone. And the mayor has the overarching administrative control of the city.
Okay, and is that appealable to council?
You mean the appointment of the hearing officer or the?
Or you know, if someone, they want to appeal it, it goes to the hearing officer, they're still ticked off, can they appeal it to council? As it happens in many of our other things?
As the ordinance is written, no.
Okay, so it ends with the hearing
Decision
officer.
is final.
Okay.
But obviously, there is an option to go to court on any case if they feel that their rights have been violated.
Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Well, I had similar thoughts on not the actual ordinance itself. I do believe we should work with Panhandle Health and protect our water source. And so and Terry Pickle, you're a fantastic employee. You have more knowledge on the water quality than any of us up here. But my question was in the actual, I guess the language in the ordinance itself around the appeals. I don't imagine there's a lot of appeals. If somebody's polluting, it's pretty obvious. But let's say there was an appeal and it goes to a hearing officer. You know, we as the elected body probably should come to us. Right now, we take appeals for massage parlors, and we're not experts on that. But
I am.
Well, okay. But you know, we probably, it's really a matter of accountability and nothing more. So if people don't like how their appeal went, they can hold us accountable. And if it stops with the water department director, Terry, then there's just no accountability there. So my thought, Randy, is in the language of this, we probably should have something more clear that it could be appealed to council, even though there is judicial review. Or maybe we look at all of our ordinances so that council isn't constantly hearing a lot of appeals, and we have an actual civil hearing officer. And so I wondered what your thoughts are on that.
Put him on the spot.
Sounds like a good agenda item.
That's a long question, a long answer, and it deals with the functions of the various parts of the city. Council is technically the legislative body of the city and doesn't typically get involved in the administrative aspects. Mm-hmm. There are some cases that our code says can be appealed to council. There are many other places where there is just a hearing officer and the decision is final. It is up to you guys. You can draft the ordinance, revise the ordinance as you wish, but you should consider that this is a very technical issue, and the anticipation is that the hearing officer is going to have some expertise in the area of water quality, something that the council would have to be educated upon each time an appeal comes to you. So again, it's something the council can assume that duty by changing the ordinance before it's passed. It's up to you guys.
I appreciate that.
Wouldn't a preferable route, or at least an alternative route, be that if the appellant finds the hearing officer's ruling unacceptable, to then go to the courts?
That's how the ordinance is written, is once the hearing officer makes a decision, the next step would be judicial review.
Yeah. So really, the issue, to bring this down to my simple little mind, really what we've got here is we have an aquifer protection district, which is a unique district, and it's because of that we need to provide some local authority to protect that aquifer. And we do that by jointly working with the other entities, the other municipalities and the county and the health district, to ensure that we continue doing what we've already been doing, and that is protect our aquifer.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to make one note. About 2 years ago, in working with the Regional Housing and Growth Issues Partnership, when their initial countywide survey went out, not quoting the regular numbers, but one of the top 5 items that the citizens had responded in their survey was protecting the water source, the aquifer and our water. So it was in the top 5. Thousands of citizens replied to that. So it is top of mind for folks here.
Needs to be done for sure.
A follow-up, Mr. Mayor, to what Randy just said. So Randy, in judicial review, if it gets appealed to the courts, who's the defendant?
That is a good question. I would have to think about that. It could be the city, which is enforcing its rules. That would be the only logical one I could.
But are we enforcing our rules, or are we enforcing their rules?
If you pass the ordinance, you would be enforcing your rules.
But they're enforcing the rules, not us.
The ordinance is drafted.
For us.
The ordinance is drafted so that the director, Terry, is the person enforcing the rules, but he can delegate that authority, and the anticipation under the MOU is that the delegation goes to the experts, which would be Panhandle Health.
So the way I'm reading that is we would be the city. So if we were sued, if there was a lawsuit, it would be the city would be named as the defendant.
That would be logical.
Okay, thanks.
And Mr. Mayor, if I can add to that point, in the 9 years that I've overseen the program, we've never had a request for an appeal, or, I mean, our goal is to work with the businesses and to come up with a solution. So I've not seen anything go past a compliance conference where we sit down and we talk about options that will satisfy the rule, but will also work for the business owner. And we also work with them regarding practical timeframes. Our goal is to achieve compliance, not to go out there with a big stick and try to, I mean, we're all parts of this, members of this community, and education has frankly gone a really long way in being successful in this program, which is frankly why we had so many letters of support, for the rule.
And I agree, but the time when I think that something never happens and then it happens is usually after something like this. Experience talking.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
Ready to make motion?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I would make a motion to dispense with the rule and read Council Bill 23-1005 once by title only.
Second?
We have motion and a second. Further discussion? Clerk, take the roll, please.
English,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Miller?
Aye.
McEvers?
Yes.
Dugan?
Yep.
Would you please read the title?
An ordinance of the City of Coeur d'Alene adding a new chapter designated as 13.40 Rathdrum Prairie Aquifer Ordinance to the Municipal Code of the City of Coeur d'Alene, establishing a purpose, definitions, performance standards, rules for a variance, and provisions regarding violations and enforcement, repealing all ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for severability, and providing for publication of a summary of this ordinance and an effective date hereof.
Would entertain a motion?
Well, I would make a motion then to adopt Council Bill 23-1005.
Second.
Have motion second. Will the clerk take?
I would like to
yes.
discuss. So, Mr. Mayor, I absolutely 100% agree with the purpose of this. What concerns me when I was reading it at home, and then what Woody brought up too, is it sounds like an end run around state government. It sounds like, you try, you have your rule, and I think you should. I mean, if I was in the legislature, and I hate them, but if I was down there, I would have supported you, because I think that's really important. But I question, right now, it's an end run. You're going to go to the cities to try to get the same power that you had before, which is not really the way our government works, as much as I hate what goes on in Boise and disagree. And this was back in 2019 when they were a little more sane than they are now. It just seems like this is not our job. This is your job to go to the legislature and continue hammering them and say, give us our authority back, which is where it belongs and what you guys should be doing. So I'm unsettled by us taking on that responsibility and doing it. Randy says it's okay. I'm hoping everything goes the way you say it will, and that this is not going to be a big issue for us. But I just don't like it when, in our government, when a higher authority makes a rule and then we decide we're going to go ahead and do something else to get around it. That's very uncomfortable to me.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
under discussion, I would just say that a lot of things that we do, it's a value judgment. And for me, the value is that we're protecting our drinking source. So I'm going to go ahead with the move around because clearly here in Kootenai County, we have more common sense. And we know we need to protect our water source.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I would just comment that it was my understanding that legislative, I don't see this as much as a go-around as I do them saying this should be a local issue. You should figure it out locally because all of the regions are different. And most of the folks in North Idaho want local control rather than Boise telling them what to do. So I think that if taken in that vein, where if the legislator said, we are not going to do this, you go back and figure out how to solve the problem locally, that's what we're doing. So,
I hope you're right, but I don't give them that much intelligence.
okay, it was a good guess on their part.
Woody?
I think the bottom line is, like Christie says, if we get to protect our aquifer, we do it anyway. And now that we've got the old guys kind of wandering around looking for problems and checking in, I think it's important for us to protect our aquifer, bottom line.
If I may make a comment real quick.
Yes.
We are not unique in this. We're kind of leading the charge on it for a change rather than following up. Spokane County is in the same position. Some of the rules have changed for them as well. They're recognizing the uniqueness of our aquifer. They're looking at all of those open gravel pits in Spokane County at the moment. The Spokane Aquifer Joint Board has funded that through a grant, and realizing the potential for contamination of our aquifer and trying to enact their own legislation to be able to do the same thing, because really it's a local issue. So we're not unique. I think this is going to be the wave of the future, unfortunately. Yes, we are, Mr. Gookin, we are assuming some liability there. In watching the history of Panhandle Hills District, I think we're reasonably safe, about as safe as you can be. They prefer to do everything through education and assistance to those customers. They don't go out with a heavy hand and try to hammer down enforcement. They try to work with those customers and do their best to come to a reasonable solution for everyone.
I think, Dan, that your point is a good point in that the legislature stripped them of that authority, and we would certainly want to support the health district having that authority renewed. But I think in the interim, protection of the health district trumps anything else, and so I would urge the council to support this, but also urge the health district to continue to work with the state to allow health districts to have that authority.
I agree, Mr. Mayor. I think one of my concerns, though, is, we do this, and we've done things in the past. Then all of a sudden, the legislature comes back into section with a vengeance, and they drop the hammer on us. And that's just something I think we should be aware of in the future.
Sure. Will the clerk take the roll, please?
English,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye. Aye.
McEvers,
Yes. Yes, sorry.
It was a nautical vote.
Did she call Gookin?
We're going to let Councilor Gookin vote.
Did you already write something down?
Councilmember
What did I
Gookin.
vote? I'll vote yes.
Motion carries, thank you. And to follow that successful motion as a MOU, Terry?
Yes. So we have an MOU to designate Panhandle Health District as the inspectors and the educators for the city and doing this work for us. So what the MOU is to delegate authority to Panhandle Health District.
Mr. Mayor,
Please.
I'd make a motion to approve resolution number 23039, approving a memorandum of understanding with Panhandle Health District 1 for the inspection and enforcement of critical materials management for the Rathdrum Prairie Aquifer protection.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
I just have one question, Terry. In this presentation, you were referring to CMRs. Or maybe
Critical
that was
Management Resource, yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
critical
Or critical management records, I believe that.
records.
Yes.
Thank you.
Further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk take the roll, please?
Wood,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
McEvers,
Yes.
Gookin,
Yeah.
English,
Yes.
Thank you,
Thank
Terry.
you.
Moving on to a MOU with CDA Regional Chamber of Commerce for the 4th of July Parade and Fireworks Show.
Okay, well, Linda introed this for me earlier, so I will just reiterate a few things and some highlights included in the agreement. So as you know, staff has been working to negotiate contracts for some of our larger events. The 4th of July is one of those larger events we all know and love. It's been around for a long time, starts with a parade, and then there's a segment of time in the community that we do not have an event, and then revitalizes late in the evening with a fireworks show. So as we move forward with this agreement, one of the items that took kind of a long time to develop was the traffic control plan. And as you saw in your packet, you get one-page traffic control plan for the parade and about 10 pages for the breakup after the fireworks. So you know that's the intensive part of the evening for our staff and public safety. And our streets department and engineering department spent a lot of time putting that together, and we think we've dialed it in, thanks to Todd and his staff, to a great plan that we can use year over year. In addition, the street and engineering department looked at the need for the volunteers at the intersections, worked with public safety, analyzed where the barriers would be, and were able to eliminate some of the needed volunteers at some of the intersections for the parade. And we really don't utilize volunteers in the evening for the breakup because it's such an intensive process of getting all the vehicles out of downtown in the evening hours. So Todd was able to negotiate with the traffic control company and eliminate about 50% of the cost from last year that was incurred by the Chamber of Commerce. So it has a not to exceed of $8,000 that the chamber will be paying, but we were able to help them eliminate some of those costs on their end. In addition, in this contract, we've reserved some spaces downtown in some of the parking lots that we've traditionally agreed to give the chamber for the fundraising for police and fire. So we've secured those sites. We've worked with public safety and got them the locations that was their preference. The fee included in the memorandum is the $750 large event fee and the $1,000 security deposit that is in our fee resolution. As we look at costs, kind of like we did with the Coeur d'Alene one, the chamber provided us with their costs, and then we've provided you with our costs as well. So the chamber has a breakdown of about $64,000 in expenses. They've estimated their volunteer hours to be a value of about $9,000. Excuse me, for a total of $73,461 in expenses. The city of Coeur d'Alene pays for some additional lightings in the park at the end of the evening to help have a secure exit plan from the park. In addition to that, we looked at the overtime and comp time costs for the city departments involved that night, equaling about $43,800, and that's for the entire day. So the decision point before you today is to really look at that memorandum of agreement, make sure that it's incorporated all the items that you see fit, and I stand for questions. Linda's here to answer questions from the chamber, and Todd's here if you have any specific questions regarding that traffic control plan.
Yes.
Renata, I have a quick question on the staffing in the 2 columns in our packet. For all wages and benefits for all the departments listed, fire, police, streets, parks.
Yes.
That's the normal staffing model that would be occurring with or without this event.
Yes.
So really, okay, so the 43,000 is additional that you mentioned, which just for everybody is primarily fire and police.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A question. So in the past, I believe we had revenue from one of the parking lots or somehow go to supplement the police and fire. Are we doing that again this year?
That would be for Troy. So the money that we get as a portion of the funds from those parking lots during that day, how do you break that out?
The revenue goes back into the parking fund from that day, because we have the expenses anticipated in your general fund for all of the 4th of July personnel costs.
In the past, though, didn't we dedicate some of the funds from parking to go to police specifically, police and fire?
I think we did that one year, we did that.
Did we direct it to go on or just once?
I'm not sure I was on council at the time. I just recall because I was at the police department. And so I couldn't answer that. I would hope that it would be an ongoing commitment.
So it's not an ongoing commitment? It was just a one-time thing?
That's the way we took that, yes. We do a interfund transfer from parking over to the general fund every year, and we provide money from parking to parks and Parks Capital Improvement Fund.
Well, I bring it up because when I brought it up then, I mean, it was still this issue of this incredible amount of overtime that we pay police and fire. You know, we have $750 to cover the event, and we have $43,000 in overtime, you know, and that if we could get $1,000 or something from that parking fund to go specifically to reimburse that, it would, to me, make a lot of sense and make it more palatable, keep the fee to the chamber low, if you can see where I'm headed.
I can hear where you're headed, yes.
Okay.
Just doesn't want to entertain it.
He just doesn't want to entertain it, does he? Nope, doesn't want to go there. Well, I would like to see that money go to reimburse those funds. I understand the whole parking thing, but I think the reason I brought it up years ago was so that we could offset some of the cost to the taxpayer for this event. That's all I have to say.
Okay.
Not for the night.
Woody, do you want to add to the confusion?
Yeah, let me know. I was going to reminisce for a moment, but I changed my mind. So can you tell me, and we do this, we've always had this, right? A MOU with the chamber for...
No, we haven't had it specifically for the 4th of July. So we have had contracts and agreements with the Downtown Association. So I've done this a lot through the negotiations. I keep using those terms interchangeably, but they are not. They are 2 separate organizations.
Okay.
So this one is specific to the Chamber of Commerce.
So the Downtown Association is out of the 4th of July thing? Okay,
Correct.
got it.
I'm sure they supply some support, but
Okay.
this is the chamber, regional chamber
Okay,
event.
sorry. I was having a deja vu, and
It's
I
all
go,
right. I'm
okay,
with you.
Thank you.
I've just got a couple things, because I was involved in starting this festival thing 20 years, a while back. So my question is, if there are modifications required that come up in this MOU this year that are minor, does this MOU have to come completely back to council? I'm going to throw out an example. In the MOU right now, it says the parade needs to start at 10 a.m. and be over by 1. If the parade, it's deemed, needs to start at 9:30, does the whole MOU have to come back to council?
Yes, this MOU is specific to this event this year. Our hope is to come back with sort of a master agreement. Now, the Chambers got the one event, but the Downtown Association will have several events in their master agreement. So this is our first year kind of piloting through this. So our hope is that maybe if this works this way, maybe next year we bring one back that incorporates several years into one, but this was our maiden voyage, let's say. So yes, this will
Yeah, I
come
just
back
look at,
next
I
year.
look at it because in my read through it, I'm
Yep.
having that set of lenses on of having been there and organized it and went, this is really stringent on some things. So in the field, sometimes there's some latitude that needs to occur. So I just didn't know if we had the ability to do that, or if it has to come back to full council depending, on what the details are. And I suppose the best plan is to just make the notes of the things that needed to occur and incorporate them into the MOU at that time.
Absolutely.
to
And the
move
road
that
closure
forward.
and setup, according to the plan, happens a lot earlier than when the parade participants come in. So
Right.
we do have some flexibility if
Okay.
need be with that, but the road closure occurs much earlier.
Right. And I have a weird question on candy. I mean,
Oh, no.
candy was such a big deal. I know, but are we insured for that?
Sure for candy.
Yes, we are.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. It's a big deal. It's a big conversation.
Are you talking about the
I
teeth
just-
rot that happens in our children, or which part? Which part of the candy?
It's just, it's a
Okay.
big,
We
it's a
we
big
explain
parade.
a little bit of what we're talking about with candy to people who may not know.
The moan was because a lot of parades have had insurance issues by throwing candy out because children run out into the street to get the candy, or they eat the candy and there's an incident because they're excited and, all of this. So it's just a thing that I wanted to hear the nod that, yes, we run this by and we're covered for that.
So we can throw candy or not?
We can throw candy.
Can't.
We have a comment. You can hand it out.
Hand it out.
You can't throw it.
What can we throw? I don't know.
Water.
Throw nothing.
Funny stories.
No, Ground Forces did that with their water truck in the parade in Post Falls, remember? And all the kids ran out into the street, and that was another parade. I have a lot of parade stories, so,
I
that's
would
all.
love to hear a motion.
not more of my parade stories? No. Okay,
No.
Motion
another
is
time.
levity right now.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move for approval of Resolution 23040, approving memorandum of understanding with the Coeur d'Alene Regional Chamber of Commerce, Inc., for the 4th of July parade and fireworks show.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk take the roll, please?
Evans,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
McEvers.
Yes.
Gookin,
Yep.
English,
Yes.
Wood.
Yes.
Thank you. Stephanie Padilla, let's buy an art piece.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I come to you tonight on behalf of our Arts Commission with the opportunity to take a piece of art that is in our current art currents and bring it on as a full art piece into our collection. So the art piece is called Timeline Theory and Reflections. It's commissioned by Ken Turner, and so the arts currents are in our arts collection for 2 years, and then they are rotated out. And we do half and half. So we started here in May, coming together and doing another call of artists in the Pacific Northwest to change out 6 of our current art currents and We're also in discussions with the artists that are going to have their arts currents removed, and Ken Turner is one of those artists, and he has offered his art piece to the Arts Commission and city for $1,000. It is currently listed as at a price of $7,000 if you were to purchase it for your own use or home. So it's currently sitting on the corner of 3rd and Sherman. We don't have a current location. I have been in discussion with our Bill Greenwood, our Director of Parks. He has some ideas. The funds would come from our arts funding. Our art is funded some from Ignite. If we did use Ignite money, it would have to go in those specific districts. We're kind of thinking maybe going outside of one of our districts, maybe to Atlas or East Sherman. But if you guys had a recommendation for that spot, Mr. Greenwood would also entertain that idea. So that is where it's currently sitting today, right there. And if you would so incline to have it in your permanent collection, it would be $1,000 to the city and arts.
Motion? Oh, Woody's got a question.
I have to ask, Stephanie, so when Arts Currents is what we own, or it's the program of the arts coming and going?
Correct. So we don't own it. Let's say it's on consignment. So we put it out and it is available for the public to purchase. If for some reason somebody does purchase it, like our elk that's currently, it's been purchased, the city gets a portion of that and the artist gets the rest. So the city gets 25%, so it's on commission.
Okay.
And we rotate them out every
So-
2 years. So this one has been in that current spot. It'll be 2 years in September. So we won't move it until September when we get our next set of art.
So we buy the art originally, we pay the people to
We
make
pay
it?
them $1,000 stipend yearly to have it on display. But
So
that's
they
it.
make it, we don't really buy it?
We don't
just-
buy it.
Okay,
Yep. The
And-
public has the opportunity to purchase it.
okay. And is this the norm? Does this happen pretty regularly, that it comes to an end and then the artist goes, oh, I don't want it anymore, or can you, I don't mean it that way, but you know.
So the honest truth of our artist, Mr. Turner, is he does live over in the Seattle area. He is slowly retiring out of this artist, and the size of this art piece and his current health condition would be too costly for him to come this way and pick it up at this point. So he has offered it to us at a discount.
So that's not necessarily the norm.
This is not our norm. We've
Okay.
actually only, I believe, maybe purchased one more. Is that correct?
Well, if I may,
Amy?
Stephanie, I remember we aim to purchase a piece out of each collection if possible, or if there's one that we desire as the commission, we take a look at them. So we've had luck with several being purchased by individuals. There's one that's outside of Anthony's, I believe, down in Riverstone that was an Art Currents that was purchased probably 10 years ago. So
All right.
it's like a red stone hanging, or red handle with a stone hanging, if you remember. So we've purchased multiple pieces throughout the
Thank you.
years.
Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You said that we sold an elk art piece, right?
Yes.
How much money did we make?
Did we make about almost $5,000, I believe, on that piece?
Holy cow. So we can afford this.
You can.
Well, I was trying to think about it, and in reference to Justin, I thought, this thing's made out of steel. And I looked up the price of steel, and it's 12 cents a pound, which means this thing would have to weigh 8,000 pounds for it to be worth its meltdown price.
Correct.
But I think since we sold the elk, we can afford it.
Okay.
So I'm good.
Okay, good.
Make a motion then.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm supposed to make the motion now, since I'm the
I
joker.
think we should buy it.
Yeah, I
Make
think
a
we should.
motion.
I think we should buy it since we have that cash from that elk. So I would move that we approve Resolution 23041, which is approving an agreement to purchase an art piece titled Timeline Theory Reflections by Ken Turner in the amount of $1,000.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by the Dans. Any further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk take the roll, please?
Miller.
Aye.
McEvers.
Yes.
Gookin.
Yep.
English.
Yes.
Wood.
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Becker, do you want to spend more money?
Yes, but I have a solution, a really good solution.
Holy moly.
So good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council, and thank you for the opportunity to hear Wastewater's request to approve Amendment Number 3 to an existing professional services agreement with HDR Engineering in association with our solids building improvements. First and foremost, I think it's important for the community to understand that when we do a project at the treatment plant, we must remain fully operational at all times. It doesn't stop flowing. So because of that, we hire an engineering firm to assist us in the design, the staging, the construction, and the startup of any treatment plant upgrades that we have. This solids building improvements project is one such project. Some of you may recall that we started this process back in 2020, and we have an original professional services agreement with HDR back in 2020 for the preliminary engineering design and the procurement of the piece of equipment. Fast forward to today, and we're now at Amendment Number 3. This is a typical process that the Wastewater Department employs. Amendment Number 3 is for the construction management and oversight of this project. It also includes some regulatory requirements and assisting us with our pre-qualification and bidding process that we just recently went through. Within my staff report, you can see highlighted in blue, Amendment Number 3 is for $999,330. This is a planned project with the Wastewater Department. We currently have the budget authority for this multi-year project. The project will take about 340 days projected right now, and a copy of HDR's scope has been included within your packet. This amendment is an ongoing project, as well as previous two amendments. We have followed Idaho Code, which allows the city to negotiate with our current provider, in this case HDR, for professional services with any project that's an association or phased. This solids handling project meets that criteria. So with that, it is the Wastewater Department's request that council should approve Amendment Number 3 with HDR for $999,333. And with that, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
Mike, remind us again of the projected cost of the actual facility.
This project or the whole
Yes.
facility?
No, the facility.
So originally, this was a $5.6 million? Yes, $5.6 million estimate in the facility plan. We are now at 5.8 with the procurement of the centrifuge.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Woody?
So what we're paying for right now is kind of the organization, there's no parts and pieces here. Is that correct? This is all the management of the time and stuff?
This is the construction management services, the tail end of the project. So once we go to construction, HDR takes over all the inspection, oversight, submittal review, everything through startup. So hopefully this is the final amendment.
Okay. And so we're at 5.8 with this included? You're thinking?
No.
Okay.
We're at 5.8 construction cost.
Okay. And then this on top of it?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
The design costs for this facility. And they're about 20% of the actual cost.
The
Help
design
us.
cost came to 4, 6, 7, 8%.
Yeah, well, actually, design and management, et cetera. That's because this facility is so much more technical than just a normal brick and mortar facility.
Correct. We have specialized equipment. We're also addressing the odor issues on that side of the treatment plant. Just for record, I decided I'd look up our last large project, and we came in at the end of the project at 14.5% of the construction budget. This is at 16.3. So it's relatively close.
Yeah. So we'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to approve Resolution 23042, approving Amendment Number 3 to the agreement of HDR Engineering for Solids Building Improvement Project in the amount of $999,330.
Second.
Thank
We
you.
have a motion and a second. Further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk take the roll, please?
McEvers,
Yes.
Gookin,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Miller.
Aye.
Now I'd like to say thank you. I was getting pressured out of here by
Thank you.
The most money and the shortest conversation.
Yeah.
Jeez. It just drives me nuts, that much cost just for design and
Yeah.
supervision.
You want to do it right.
Yeah. Mr. Jamison,
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
you
Thank
want
you
to
for the
share your home
opportunity.
with people.
Exactly, yes. I'm putting the ball on the tee for Executive Director Carrie Ward to follow up here. Council, you've been working on opportunities to help with housing in our great area. Councilmember Miller knows all about this. The Regional Housing and Growth Issues Partnership has assisted with this. So I bring before you this opportunity. Should the council approve funding of up to $50,000 to assist with this program? HomeShare Kootenai County is new to our area, and the executive director can speak more about its background. It provides background checks and management services in order to enable homeowners to identify people that are unrelated to share that space. Home sharing provides a mutual benefit to the homeowner, because there's income, and to the people that would live there, the tenants. Every home sharing arrangement is unique. It's about people helping people. HomeShare Kootenai County facilitates these arrangements. There's no fee to participate in HomeShare, so there's no barrier. When a match is successful, the homeowner pays a one-time fee equal to 25% of the first month's rent. The renter will pay a fee of $35 flat. Your source of funding coming from your administrator is proposed to come from the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA dollars. You had held them, not officially, as housing, and that would be my proposal to you. It would be used by HomeShare for marketing a program and to cover the costs of ongoing operations. Again, the city has partnered with Connect Kootenai, the Regional Housing and Growth Issues Partnership, to seek solutions, provide opportunities, and this would be a way to kick it forward in a positive way. You have recognized that a local challenge is finding affordable housing. The HomeShare program opportunity is available immediately. Nothing has to be built. The infrastructure is here. And it is one of the tools one could use to address this situation. So Executive Director Carrie Ward is with us. She has this PowerPoint. I will turn it over to her.
Thanks, Troy. Thank you.
Welcome, Carrie.
Hi, thanks, Mayor Hammond, council members, thanks for having me. I am Carrie Ward. I'm the Executive Director of HomeShare Kootenai County. And just imagine that you had a construction company and that you realized, just like everyone else, that we needed to add more affordable housing units. And think about everything that goes into building a new building, time and money and land, permits, plans and labor and materials, all that kind of stuff. It would take months and months to make any sort of impact, or maybe longer to make any sort of impact. Well, HomeShare Kootenai County has done a lot in 5 months that we've been has been established. In just 5 months since it's been established, the board of directors, well, they formed a board of directors. And let me also say, on a very shoestring budget, we've done all of this. We've laid out the infrastructure of how we're going to operate. They've hired staff, trained staff. We are a 501c. We've established ourselves as a 501c3. We have insurance and bookkeeping, and we've gone from zero inventory of affordable housing units to 3. And that's not a huge number, but all 3 are under $500 a month rental. So quite a bit. I mean, very affordable. And we've created these affordable housing units out of inventory that's already out there. I mean, people are hearing about us right now from word of mouth and brochures and organizations that we're involved with. But what we really need help with is funds for community outreach and marketing. And so we need your help. Let me tell you about how our program works. We have built our website already, where our clients apply online, and our staff, we do criminal background checks and check references. Then we interview all of our clients in person, or we visit the house just to make sure we know what their needs are. Then we make introductions to clients, that we feel that might be the most safe, compatible match for them. Our match ambassadors will help work up a match agreement, which is a lease. It's a little bit different than a normal lease. It outlines the financial obligations and terms, but it also talks about any sort of reduced rent for service exchange, and I'll talk about that in a second. We also encourage all of our clients to start out with a 2-week trial period, just to make sure that the match would work out okay. And after the match, we'll provide follow-up and ongoing support. We are the first home share in Idaho. They are putting in home share in Boise soon, so there will be a second one in Idaho soon. There are 50 recognized home shares in the U.S., but they are quickly emerging as an affordable housing model just because they make so much sense. So they are adding more all the time. We are a proud member of the National Shared Resource Center. Home share is not a franchise. I've gotten that question several times. And the National Resource Center, we're new, and so we're learning. So they offer us best practices and resources, and they have like webinars and like Zoom meetups where other organizations around the country can meet up and talk and discuss what they're doing and things like that. Why do we need home share in Kootenai County? I mean, I'm not going to repeat all of this of the reasons why we need home share, because we all know we need to ease our housing crisis, and we're all looking at ways for more affordable housing. And this is one of the toolkit items that came out of the Regional Housing and Growth Issues Partnership that was spearheaded by Councilor Miller and Hillary. So it is that. What is home sharing? I think media thinks that it might look like this. I think society thinks it might be just stacking people in your house. How it can feel, maybe not so great because we all have roommates. It may not always be great, but home sharing can be pretty great. I mean, and we just need to open up our, people in our community just need to open up their minds a little bit more to this concept, this home share concept. In other parts of the country, Vermont and Oregon and California, some other places, it's definitely more established and people hear of it, have heard of it more. A match examples is the rent-only examples. You know, it's kind of the way you would see it, where it's the rent is paid directly to the homeowner, or there is an opportunity to be mutually beneficial for both parties. That's the theme of home share. It needs to work out for everyone. Obviously, this is like a way safer way to find, home share is definitely a way safer way to find a housemate than going on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace or something. So this is definitely a way safer way. And so there's a lot, for our clients, there's all kinds of benefits to them. But that last one on there, it says one spare room can change 2 lives. That's, that is a tagline from the national organization. And, you know, we're new and just starting up, but I really do think that one spare room can change 2 lives really does sum up the program. I mean, because from our clients that I've seen already, I mean, it's been mostly the matches that we've made so far are seniors that kind of need additional income and companionship. So, you know, and we are looking forward to share as we go down the road a little bit further. I'm excited to be able to share these home share stories with and how well it works, because home share really does work. For our community itself, I mean, I was talking earlier, but this adds additional housing units for pennies on the dollar compared to any other affordable way to create affordable housing units. And this is faster than any other way. I mean, it's almost immediate. I mean, the rooms are already out there. The spare rooms are already out there. We just need to get the word out and build up our application base. And I mean, because it takes quite a few applications to where they start to match. So, so who are our potential home providers? You guys might be a potential home provider. I might be, if I can get my kids to move out, I might be. But really anyone with a spare bedroom is a potential home provider. And our home seekers are empty nesters, traveling nurses, hospitality workers. But the main intent of Home Share Kootenai County was to create local worker housing. So, you know, that's what our marketing is going to be kind of geared towards, is try to get into those areas. And how you can help, you can share your room, share your spare room, or refer your friends and neighbors. And there are people out there that could use this service for sure. We are a 501c3, so we are planning on fundraising, writing community or foundation grants and community grants. We just received from Inovia Foundation, we received a grant, so that is exciting. And I mean, in your support, along with the other contributions that we have, are going to give us enough operating dollars for a year. And home share's on the cusp of growing into a huge, a significant housing resource for Kootenai County. It's just a matter of promoting it and getting it out there. So that is my presentation, and I really appreciate your support.
Questions? Woody?
So great presentation, thank you. Are other cities giving you money?
We're gonna ask them for money.
Okay, we're number one?
Yes.
Okay. this doesn't relate to CBDG money, right?
Right, no,
Income, you say lower income, but not necessarily.
not necessarily.
Okay. I think that's all. Thank you.
Well, since Woody didn't reminisce, I'm going to. Growing up, I used to, some of us boys, one at a time, would go spend time with my grandmother. She had a big house, and the full upstairs, second floor was an apartment that she rented out. The basement always had a couple of, she lived a couple blocks from the University of Montana. That was rented out. And then she always had at least a couple, 2 or 3 elderly women living there that she fixed meals for. Boy, if that isn't home share, I don't know what is.
It's not a new idea. It's not a new idea. But this is just a more organized, a more organized way of, rather than finding your own housemates.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Well, I think it's a really innovative program, and we at least probably should try it for a year to see what happens. But there isn't anything built in this resolution for any kind of, $50,000, where's the review? Where is the, come back and tell us how this
Right.
worked?
Well,
And
there
not only
is.
that, One more thing.
Okay.
This is ARPA funds, so we're able to do this because we have the ARPA funds. But what's your ongoing plan?
Right, so we, it's not ongoing, sustainable right now, ongoing. So we have to, fix that by fundraising and, again, going out for other grants and other dollars. And then to your first question, I've noticed that a lot of the other home share organizations kind of talk about like the cost per match or something like that. And so hopefully after a year's worth of going down this, we'll be able to report back to council and to everyone, kind of an approximate cost per match.
So this is what I would like to see somewhere added into the resolution. It can be amended right now, that there would be a report back to council, a very specific data-driven report.
Right.
Because I just think that that's sort of our responsibility to
Right.
monitor.
Right.
What did we do with the money? And so can we amend on the fly?
Yes.
So that, I'm happy to make a motion, but I think there's more discussion, so. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So what are you going to be doing with the $50,000?
So approximately 35,000 of it is going to be for community outreach and marketing, print ads, social media, perhaps even radio, and then the other 15,000 is for administrative support.
And then pigtailing or dovetailing on what Christy was saying. I'm getting my tails wrong. So are you going to be hitting us up for another $50K in a year?
No, this is a one-time ask.
Oh, good. I like
Yeah.
those. Thank you.
Other questions? Dan?
Well, just to point out that, in the first year, you'll be limited, your startup and things. So whatever the cost per share the
match.
first year are going to be way more than year 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 once you.
Right.
So, it's not hard to imagine, that we'd end up with, at least a couple hundred of these
Right.
if we've only got
Right,
3
we
now.
could snowball pretty quickly.
And whatever they're renting for these days, which is incredible, and 20% of one piece and 35 applications. So anyway, I don't, but if it's, you're asking once, that's good, but also just to point out that
Right.
it will be
the
a
cost-
diminishing
Right,
cost.
it will be
So-
diminishing, you're right.
Mr. Mayor, I can make a motion. I would like to make a motion to approve resolution number 23043, approving disbursement of $50,000 in ARPA funds to Home Share Kootenai County and extending an invitation to Ms. Ward to return to us, a mandatory invitation to return to us next June to explain your
how
progress.
it did, how we
Thank
did.
you.
Perfect.
Second.
A motion and a second. Seeing no further discussion, will the clerk take the roll, please?
Or is this just,
McEvers,
Yes.
Gookin,
Yes.
English,
yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Miller.
Ah, what the heck.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I wanted to thank my board members for being here this so long. Donna Brundage and Bev Moss.
They don't look bored.
And Kelsey's here.
Good work by all of you.
Guys.
Okay, the next item is Kootenai County EMS and an ordinance for development impact fees. And we'll start with Chief Greif. Welcome, Chief.
Good evening. We're getting cleanup for you tonight, so there's multiple parts to this staff report. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of City Council. I'll keep this brief before I turn it over to Chief Keeley for his presentation. But before I turn attention to the staff report that you guys have, I'd like to do a recap of what EMS operations are in your fire department. Most of you probably remember back in 2001, our EMS system did a restructure, and we went to a fire-based EMS model. And what that did is it introduced ambulances, advanced EMTs, and paramedics into all the fire departments throughout this county. So for over the past 20 years, your Coeur d'Alene Fire Department has operated 2 advanced life support ambulances that has generated $1.8 million to the city of Coeur d'Alene in 2022. And as you know, this past March, we've placed our 3rd ALS ambulance into service at Station 4. So combine these 3 ambulances moving forward, we're going to see over $2 million back to the city of Coeur d'Alene moving forward from this date. Annually, your fire department responds to approximately 10,000 responses, and 80% of those are EMS in nature. So it's a huge part of what we do as an all-hazards fire department is EMS. We currently have 63 line personnel. Half of those are paramedic level. The other 40% are advanced EMT, and the other 10% are basic EMT level. So we see a tiered response. We have paramedics on fire engines, ambulances, and all of the ambulances move around the county. At any given time, we could have an ambulance from Athol responding to Coeur d'Alene, and of course, Coeur d'Alene, we go south to Harrison and Worley a lot. So that's how that system works. So tonight, we're going to ask you to support and approve the collection of impact fees for the Kootenai County Emergency Medical Services System. Ultimately, these dollars are coming back to your fire department by way of capital and equipment to provide this service that I just described. With that, I'll turn attention to the staff report that you all have. There's multiple parts to this, so I'll try to hit the highlights. And if you have questions between myself, Randy, Chief Keeley, and Hillary, hopefully we can answer all of them. So the decision point in our staff report is, should the City Council adopt an ordinance amending Chapter 14 of Municipal Code, also adopt the KCMSS Capital Improvement Plan, enter into an intergovernmental and joint powers agreement with Kootenai County EMSS, and collect developmental impact fees on their behalf. So the history with KCMS is they have requested from all jurisdictions in their service area to collect impact fees on behalf of them because they do not have ordinance authority or a mechanism to collect these through building permits. Kootenai County EMS worked with Galena Consulting to complete a development impact fee study and capital improvement plan through 2031. The city of Coeur d'Alene is the last jurisdiction to hear their request. The others have started collecting the fees and transferring them on a monthly basis to Kootenai County EMS. Chief Keeley of Kootenai County EMS made his presentation to our Planning Commission on February 14th and presented the request to collect these impact fees. The city's Planning Commission, acting as the Development Impact Fee Advisory Committee, heard the request and made a recommendation to the city council to collect these fees. So the financial analysis, we currently have a mutual aid agreement with Kootenai County EMS for services with those 3 ambulances. With this impact fee approval, the city will not collect an administrative fee to collect and administer these impact fees. Kootenai County EMSS has done a study and evaluated the cost of the system improvements with their CIP, and their impact fees are collected at a time of the building permits. The fees that will be collected are in the staff report here, $132 per dwelling unit for all new residential uses and 65 cents per square foot for all new non-residential uses. So collecting these impact fees requires the city to adopt their capital improvement plan, amend Title 14 of the Municipal Code, enter into an intergovernmental and joint powers agreement, and update our fee schedule to include these new fees. So updating the city's impact fees will not impact the collection of Kootenai County EMSS fees. Each year, the city will receive an updated impact fee from Kootenai County EMS that will be adjusted for inflation based on the Engineering News Record Index. The updated fees will be included in the city's fee schedule and collected with building permits. These fees will be deposited into Kootenai County EMSS impact fee account and not commingled with the city's development impact fees. The city will remit the development impact fees to KCMSS on a monthly basis. So Kootenai County EMSS has mechanisms in place for exemptions projects with extraordinary impacts and credits, and they're listed out there. I didn't know, did you want me to go through each one, or do you have specific questions that maybe Bill or Hillary can address?
The council's seen that, so
Okay,
I don't think you have to.
So our decision point, council should adopt the ordinance as well as adopt the Kootenai County EMSS capital improvement plan, enter into an intergovernmental and joint powers agreement, and collect fees on their behalf. So at this time, I would like to introduce Chief Bill Keeley from Kootenai County EMS for his short presentation for you.
Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you very much for this opportunity. You have been bombarded by PowerPoint, and now that I stand here, I really wish I would have just done this off the top of my head instead of giving you another PowerPoint, but I'll make it fast and painless, I hope. So, as Chief Greif said, Kootenai County EMS is the oversight agency for the county. We hold the state license, we own all the equipment, we purchase all the equipment, we do all the repairs on all the equipment, and then we are in contract with all the fire districts to provide the employees who actually run the calls. And we reimburse the fire districts for their employees. Coeur d'Alene specifically operates 3 ALS ambulances under contract with us. We pay, KCMSS's budget is approximately $10 million a year. $2.5 million of that is tax levy. $7.5 million of that is user fees. Of that breakdown, 7.45 goes right back to the fire districts for supplying the employees, for supplying the actual care that's being given. Coeur d'Alene receives last year $1.9 million from KCMSS for their employees, as well as all the equipment on both their ambulances and their fire trucks to provide EMS within the county. KCMSS is the second lowest taxing district in the state, second lowest EMS taxing district in the state, and our tax levy right now is 7 cents per thousand. When the state changed the law, they allowed EMS districts to begin to collect impact fees. We entered into an agreement, as Chief Greif noted, with Galena and Associates to look at our CIP and look at how that would affect us, since we do not have the authority to levy impact fees on our own. At this point, I've been to every city as well as Kootenai County, and they have agreed to collect impact fees for us. Impact fees allows us to purchase new ambulances and all the equipment to operate them. We have, our first impact fee ambulance is already in service. It's the Coeur d'Alene Station 4. That ambulance was purchased with impact fees as well as all the equipment that's on it. We anticipate needing 4 more ambulances over the next 10 years that are all impact fee eligible for purchase. That's about $4.3 million worth of equipment to put 4 ambulances and some other moderate equipment in service. That works out to be $132 on residential, as Chief Graves said. The number is wrong on square foot. It's 7 cents square foot on commercial. All impact fee money collected go right back to the fire departments and equipment. As we put on new service, we have not put a new ambulance in service in almost 11 years in Kootenai County. That is related directly to the cost of putting a new unit into service. Not so much the employees, that can come out of our M&O budget. It's purchasing all the equipment that's needed in order to put that ambulance in service. And impact fees have already allowed us to take those steps. Growth pays for growth, and that is what we're shooting for here. As our call volume increases, KCMS's call volume right now is 21,000 calls a year throughout Kootenai County, the southern portions of Bonner County, and a very small northern portions of Benewah County. We know that we're going to get to the point where we need to put ambulances on very quickly in the coming years, and impact fees is the only way that we're going to be able to meet those needs. And I'll be happy to answer any questions if I can.
Questions? Dan?
Thank you. Chief, does the impact fees collected in Coeur d'Alene then stay in Coeur d'Alene? Is that the way I'm
No,
reading
sir.
it?
The impact fees collected go throughout the county since we cover the whole county. That's why Coeur d'Alene got an ambulance. It's actually being paid for by impact fees from other districts because we're at the point of you approving them or not.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Well, I was just going to suggest that we're decades past the multiple little kingdoms. We really, to be responsible to our taxpayers and our citizens and make sure that they get the best public safety that we can offer, we have to share resources. And I'm really impressed with everything that your organization has done and the partnership that we've developed over time. I think it's the right way to go. And if we can be of assistance to make sure that we all get the resources we need, then I'm on board with that.
Thank you.
Further questions? I would entertain, oh, no, I need to open the public hearing. Thank you, Chief.
Certainly.
I will open the public hearing relative to the impact fees for Kootenai County Emergency Medical Services System. I will close the public hearing.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I would make a motion to dispense with the rule and read Council Bill number 231006 once by title only.
Second.
You have a motion second. Will clerk take the roll, please?
Gookin?
Yep.
English?
Yes.
Wood?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Miller? Aye. McEvers?
Yes.
Will the clerk read the title, please?
An ordinance providing for the amendment of Title 14 of the Coeur d'Alene Municipal Code with the addition of a new Chapter 14.14 entitled Kootenai County Emergency Medical Service System Development Impact Fees, providing for the repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, providing for the publication of a summary of the ordinance, and providing for an effective date thereof.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
make a motion to adopt Council Bill 231006.
Second.
I have a motion second. Further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I was just going to say, it would be so nice if we could do the same thing for the schools.
Yes. But I'll tell you, what Christie said earlier, this kind of system is so superior to depending on private providers for such an essential service. I really think this is a great model. Clerk, take the roll, please.
Gookin?
Yep.
English?
Yes.
Wood?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Miller? Aye. McEvers?
Yes.
And finally, Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion to approve resolution number 23-044, approving an intergovernmental and joint powers agreement with KCEMSS, adopting the capital improvement plan and adopting impact fees for KCEMSS.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion on this motion. Seeing none, will the clerk take the roll, please?
English,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
McEvers,
Oh, yeah.
Coogan,
Yep.
Well, would anybody like to make another motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion second to adjourn. All those in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We are adjourned. Bang, bang.
See, that's how you do a hearing.